Hello everyone, this is Venom, and we are back for another Destiny 2 build video. Today I'm bringing you the Threadling Warlock build. This is going to be a build all about creating tons and tons of Threadlings to help deal with our enemies. Now, this build is going to be rated for low to mid-tier content. You're not going to take this build into a Grandmaster, but you are going to be able to handle anything from a raid on down. So it's going to help a lot with ad clearing, it's going to help a lot with boss damage, but this is not going to be one that's going to be able to help you with Grandmasters very easily. And like always, I gotta put out my PSA, just because a build is not rated for Grandmasters does not mean it is a bad build. You use the right builds for the right situations. Grandmaster builds are not typically great for low to mid-tier content, and low to mid-tier content builds are not typically great for Grandmasters. They each have their place, and you want to use the right build at the right time. So, that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at our exotic we're going to be using for this build, and then go into the build itself. Now, first up, we're going to be using these Swarmers. These are exotic boots for the Warlock, and they say destroying a strand tangle spawns a Threadling. Your Threadlings unravel targets that they damage. So you're going to be getting the unraveling effect from any target damaged by a Threadling. Now, going into our aspects, first off, we've got Weaver's Call. It says cast your rip to weave 3 Threadlings and deploy any Threadlings you have perched. For our second aspect, this one's going to be a bit more defensive. We've got the Weave Walker aspect, or the Weave Walk aspect. This one is dodge while airborne to consume your melee energy and enter the weave, gaining damage resistance from combatants and players. Reactivate your air dodge or cast your rip to exit the weave. While in the weave, your melee energy is going to be drained and you generate perched Threadlings over time. So both of our aspects are going to help us to generate Threadlings. Next up for a grenade, we're going to have the Threadling Grenade, of course. It's going to basically generate 3 Threadlings for us. Our melee, of course, will be the Arcane Needle. It is the only melee for Strand Warlocks. Use whichever jump you like. And then for the Rift, of course, we're going to use the Healing Rift like we typically do. Now, for the fragments, we're only going to have 3 fragment slots for this build. We're going to use the Thread of Evolution. This is going to increase the damage that Threadlings do, as well as let them travel further. Next, we've got the Thread of Rebirth. This one says Strand Final Blows have a chance to create a Threadling. And finally, the Thread of Generation. This one says dealing damage generates grenade energy. That will basically help you generate more Threadling grenades. Now, just a heads up, you can trade out the Thread of Rebirth for a different fragment if you like, if all of your weapons have hatchling on them. However, I like using both in combination, just in case I don't get Precision Final Blows. This will give me a chance to cause a Threadling to spawn anyway. Now, weapons for this build are going to be very important. You typically want to stick with stranded weapons, and when impossible, have weapons that are going to have hatchling on here. Now, here are a few examples of some weapons I have. I got a Terrazapos that I got from the last Guardian games that have hatchling and Gutshot Straight on it. I've got a Vengeful Whisper I just got recently that has on Slice and Hatchling, both of which are perks that work with Strand. Of course, there's the Quicksilver Storm, and of course the Navigator, 2 exotic weapons. One, of course, from a dungeon, one, of course, from a pre-order. We've got for heavy weapons, we've got plenty of swords and machine gun options. I've got a Circular Logic here that has Demolitionist on it. That helps me get my grenades back. I have a Dragoncoat Sickle that has Hatchling and Demolitionist on it that I just got here recently. And of course, I got a few Marcado 45 machine guns. Here we go. There's the one with hatchling on it. I've got one with slice on it. I have not gotten them together, which is what I'm trying to get, but we will see if I ever get one. And of course, there's the craftable strand sword that came out with Season of the Deep. So how do you play this build? Honestly, you just hop into combat, stay at a distance, and start using your abilities, and it's going to start making Threadlings no matter what you do. Every ability on this Warlock is going to help us make Threadlings. Our weapons are going to help us make Threadlings. Every ability we got is going to help us make Threadlings, and then what those Threadlings do is going to help us make more Threadlings. So, I'll give an example of kind of how the build works in this Lost Sector. So you can see if you want to start off using the Weave Walker, that's going to make the 5 perched Threadlings. Once you're done, hop off. And then you can just start attacking enemies. As you attack them, any of your perched Threadlings are going to immediately pop off. You can see those perched Threadlings, when they take out enemies, are going to create tangles. You can shoot those tangles, which will create more Threadlings. Throw your grenade, even more Threadlings. Use your class ability, even more Threadlings. Threadlings everywhere. I think there's a guy hiding over here, but he died before I even got to see him. Once you're done, move on. Go ahead and use your Weave Walk whenever you need to get more Threadlings on the go, or in case you're in danger, because you do get huge damage resistance when you use it. And then, continue on. And there we go, that's it. And that's typically how combat's going to go. Everything you do generates threadlings. Now obviously you're not going to be invincible, so you still want to stay a little bit far back, but everything it's going to do is generate threadlings that are going to go out and attack enemies for you. You can hop into your weave walk if you're in danger or you need an emergency set of threadlings because you're out. You can use all of your different abilities to generate threadlings, and threadlings that you generate will create tangles, which you can then pick up, toss at enemies, which will do damage, and they will then make even more threadlings. So it's just a non-stop cycle. So as long as you're paying attention and you don't go too crazy, you will constantly have threadlings, or you at least have some tangles on the field you can throw to make more. Alright, like usual, let's take a look at our mods. First off, we've got the helmet mod. Now, for this one, you've got two choices. You can either do double assets to assets, which will give you super energy when you use your grenades and get kills with them. Now, one thing to remember, your threadlings generated from your grenades count as grenade kills. Okay, that's very important here. Only the threadlings generated from your grenades. So the threadlings generated from other sources will not count, but the ones generated from your grenades will do so. They will also create orbs of light, so keep that in mind. That being said, you can either do 2 copies of assets to assets, or you can stick with the typical heavy ammo finders, doing, of course, 2 copies of heavy ammo finder if you are solo, or 1 copy of heavy ammo finder and 1 copy of heavy ammo scout if you're in a group. And again, your entire group should be running that. Past that, having on harmonic siphons, you can generate orbs of power using your strand weapons, because again, we will be using strand weapons the majority of the time. Is also going to be very important. Next up, we got the arms. We're going to have on 1 copy of firepower and 2 copies of bolstering detonation. Again, with firepower, we will be creating orbs of power with those threadlings recreated from grenades. They do count. I've tested it out myself. Along with the bolstering detonation. I also tested it out myself. Whenever we do damage or grenade abilities, which in this case will be the threadlings generated from our grenade, we're going to lower our class cooldown. And we do need all the cooldown we got because it's not as quick as the Hunter's cooldown is. Next up, for the chest, we want 3 copies of Charged Up, or as many as you can fit onto your armor. If you need to, you can toss on a copy of Harmonic Reserves, or you can go ahead and top on a Resistance Bond if you want to, but we do want to have at least 1 copy of Charged Up on. The more the better though, and we can get up to 3 because we can hold up to 6 charges. We only hold 3 by default, but we want to get as many as we can. I was able to get 6 on mine. Next up, for the boots, we're going to have stacks on stacks. Stacks on stacks is going to give us 2 orbs of power every time we pick up 1. That's going to make it to where what we have on our chest, if we got on the 3 stacks of Charged Up, 3 orbs of power will give us all 6 charges that we need. So stacks on stacks will help. We're also going to be using insulation. We're going to really want to get our class energy back quicker than anything. If you want to, you can swap out. And I say if you want to. If you got the energy to do so, you can swap out insulation and add on an absolution if you can. I was unable to get that on mine. You may have the energy to do so on yours if you want to drop a mod for it. If you can get that on there, great. If not, then you're going to want to prioritize insulation, and of course having on the recuperation will help as well. And finally, for our class ability, we're going to have on proximity ward, utility finisher, and utility kickstart. Utility Kickstart is going to spin all those orbs of power that we're going to have stored in our chest piece and give us back a huge chunk of our class energy back whenever we use it. That's going to immediately give us back our oh shit button or quick healing and spawn 3 more threadlings out there. Now, if you don't want to do that, there's another alternative you can do with your chest, your legs, and your class armor. So instead, if you don't want to do the utility kickstart and you're not really worried about it, you want to do more damage with your weapons, get rid of all 3 copies of Charged Up. Instead, go ahead and add in your resistance mods and add in whatever reserves you want. You're going to go to the stacks on stacks mods and you're going to replace that with the strand weapon surge mod. And then for your class mods, you're going to get rid of all 3 of these. And instead, you're going to add in just time dilation, which is going to extend how long your orbs of power last. Then your Reaper mod, which is going to give you an orb of power on a weapon kill. And then whatever other mod you want to go ahead and add in there afterwards, depending on the power you got. But that is if you're going to want to rely on weapon kills a bit more versus your threadlings. If you want to get your class energy back quicker, go with the first setup. That's what I'm going to have the dim link for in the bottom. But if you want to go ahead and, you know what, I'll put both dim links in the bottom. I'll put both. I'll put the weapon setup one, and I'll put up the one for your class energy. And that's going to do it for today, guys. Again, this was the Warlock Threadling build. This is a fun build to play just because I feel like you have minions on you at all times that kind of go out and do your bidding. It's great for clearing out ads. It is especially great for doing dungeons and for doing raids, especially against bosses because they help do boss DPS. And yeah, it's a very fun one to play, so check it out. Again, I'll leave both them links into the description down below, the weapon variant and the ability variant. Thank you again for all coming by, and I will see you later.